Okay. This is the Legislative Committee, and I would like to call the meeting to order. We will establish roll call and a quorum. I am Dolores Trujillo. I am the chair of the Legislative Committee for the BRN. Susan Naranjo.
Susan Naranjo, present.
Jovita Dominguez.
Present.
Imelda Ceja-Buckowitz.
Present.
Thank you. We've established a quorum. Moving on to item 10.1. We are going to open for public comment for items not on the agenda and items for future agenda. BRN moderator, will you please take us to public comment?
We will be opening for public comment now. I will be activating the question and answer feature. Please refer to the screen share for members of the public to see how they should type in their request for comment. I've activated the question and answer feature. Members of the public can indicate that they would like to make a comment by typing into the question box, "I would like to make a comment." Please remember you will have 2 minutes to make your comments. I will not give a reminder as your time approaches. I do not want to interrupt you nor cause you to lose your train of thought. I will mute your microphone and inform you that your time has expired, and we'll move on to the next member of the public. I'll pause for a moment for members of the public to type in, "I would like to make a comment." Committee Chair Trujillo, there are no public requests for comment. Would you like me to close this window?
Yes, thank you. Moving on to item 10.2, the approval of minutes from the June 24th, 2021 meeting. I would like to make a motion that the committee adopt these minutes. Do I have a second?
I, Jovita, second it.
Thank you, Jovita. We'll take it to a vote. Dolores Trujillo votes yes. Jovita Dominguez?
Yes.
Susan Naranjo?
Yes.
Imelda Ceja-Buckowitz?
Yes.
Thank you. Is Capri Power available? The report?
She is. She's on our list of panelists and she can mute and unmute herself and participate.
Great. Go ahead, Capri. Can I see item 10.3 just to be sure?
Good afternoon, committee members. Would you like me to proceed now?
Well, I'm looking for
Sure.
the rest, item 10.3.
Board moderator, can you advance the slide? Thank you.
No. Okay, item 10.3, legislative update and discussion of bills relevant to the Board of Registered Nursing from the 2020 to 2021 legislative session. Thank you, Capri.
All right. So good afternoon, committee members. The legislature is currently in recess. Year one of the 2-year session ended on September 10th. The legislature will now reconvene on January 3rd, 2022. For this year, I tracked a total of 48 bills relevant to the BRN or its licensees. These were divided into direct impact and indirect impact categories, with the direct impact bills generally to be implemented by the BRN. The indirect impact bills fall under other agencies' jurisdiction. 11 of the 26 direct impact bills were passed, and 9 of the 22 indirect impact bills were passed. Several of these in both categories have been signed by the governor and chaptered into law by the Secretary of State. All others are 2-year bills and may be acted upon next year. Bill summaries have been included in the materials and show status of the bills as of September 22nd. Since then, 11 additional bills, direct and indirect, have been chaptered. I will be sharing some of the significant chapter direct impact bills that will be implemented by the BRN. But before I do that, please let me know if you have any questions on any of the bills listed on the agenda or anything else related to legislation that was being tracked for this year.
I think we can hear the report and then we'll see if there's questions after the report.
Okay, absolutely. The first bill is Assembly Bill 133, Health, by the Committee on Budget. This is the budget trailer bill, which impacts various health agencies such as the Office of Statewide Health Planning and Development, Department of Public Health, Department of Managed Healthcare, Health and Human Services Agency, and so on. It renames the Office of Statewide Health Planning and Development, OSHPOD, as the Department of Healthcare Access and Information. So, and then relevant to the BRN, it adds Section 502 to the Business and Professions Code and requires the BRN and other boards to collect workforce data from licensees and registrants for future workforce planning at least biennially, that is every 2 years. The workforce data collection, analysis, and publication was earlier outlined in Section 2717 of the Business and Professions Code. That Section 2717 is now repealed. This bill transferred the intent of 2717 to this Section 502 and made the requirements uniform for all boards and bureaus. Workforce data outlined in 502 will to be collected or requested by each board about its licensees, and registrants shall include at a minimum all of the following information. There are 14 categories: anticipated year of retirement, area of practice or specialty, city, county, and zip code of practice, date of birth, educational background, and the highest level attained at time of licensure or registration, gender or gender identity, hours spent in direct patient care, languages spoken, national provider identifier, race or ethnicity, type of employer or classification of primary practice site among the types of practice sites specified by the board, work hours, sexual orientation, disability status. So this data shall be provided by the board or DCA on its behalf to the Department of Healthcare Access and Information beginning July 1st, 2022, and quarterly thereafter in the manner specified by the department. DCA, Office of Information Services, OIS, is working to make this a uniform process. A licensee shall not be required to provide this information as a condition for license and will not be subject to discipline for refusal. So any of these 14 categories, if somebody decides they don't want to answer any one of them or all of them, that's really a request. It's not a requirement, and they will not be subject to discipline at the time of renewal. There are also some provisions in the bill which, through the Department of Healthcare Access and Information, will make scholarships, loans, and loan repayment programs for nurses or nursing students who meet specific criteria, such as agreeing to serve in a designated area or facility, or for those nursing students who live in counties with the most significant need for nurses. So that is something that would be housed within the Department of Healthcare Access and Information, not something that the BRN would be doing, or giving out scholarships, things like that, loan repayment programs. But that is available if nurses or nursing students meet specific criteria. They can apply for those through the Department of Healthcare Access and Information. So that is the gist of this bill. If you have any questions on the bill or its implementation, please let me know.
I think we can move on.
All right, so the next bill is Assembly Bill 361, Open Meetings, State and Local Agencies Teleconferences by Assemblymember Robert Rivas. This bill added Section 11133 to the Government Code, which will allow state bodies to hold public meetings through teleconferencing and make public meetings accessible telephonically or otherwise electronically to all members of the public seeking to observe or to address the state body. Under the statute, the current form of teleconferenced open meetings can continue until January 31st, 2022, following which, barring additional legislative or executive authority, board meetings and committee and advisory meetings will be held in a physical location as per the Bagley-Keene Act, requirements. The board meeting scheduled for February 2022 will be held in person unless, as noted, there is no authority at the time providing different requirements that is allowing for teleconference meetings to continue. So that's all for this bill. If you have questions, please do let me know.
So at this point, the statute extends until January 2022. So for the February is the first meeting that we have of the next year. At this point, we need to consider that we are coming in person to these meetings.
That's correct, Dolores. This is
Otherwise,
Lori,
Yeah,
the executive officer. So the provisions for this bill is currently only extended through January 31st of 2022. So the committee meetings, similar to what we're having right now, will be presented in a virtual manner in this identical way. And then, as we are right now, the February board meeting will be in person, and we will find a place. We will, I think there's a algorithm, whether it's north or south. And upon that, then board members and support will travel to that area, and we will go back to in-person meetings as of February 2022. Again, unless there's some other provision that comes into effect at that point and allows the board to continue to have these meetings held in a remote fashion.
thank you, Lori.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from the board? Seeing that there's no further questions, Capri, you can move on.
All right, so the next one is Assembly Bill 1015, Board of Registered Nursing Workforce Planning, Nursing Programs, Clinical Placements by Assemblymember Blanca Rubio. This bill adds a new section 2717 to the Business and Professions Code. The earlier section 2717 was repealed by Assembly Bill 133, the one we just discussed, which was the budget trailer bill, and that was effective immediately as part of the budget bill. So this new section requires that the BRN shall incorporate regional forecasts into its biennial analyses of the nursing workforce conducted pursuant to Section 502 of the Business and Professions Code. This is in alignment with the California State Auditor's recommendation number 13 to the legislature in its pre-licensure oversight audit. The regional forecast is currently done in an existing contract with the University of California, San Francisco, UCSF, as on a contract basis by the BRN. Additionally, the BRN shall develop a plan to address regional areas of shortage identified by its nursing workforce forecast, identify additional facilities that could offer clinical placement slots, and annually collect, analyze, and report information related to the number of clinical placement slots that are available and report this on its internet website. The BRN is working with DCA and CDPH, the California Department of Public Health, to implement this section. So that is the gist of this bill. Your questions, please, if any.
Seeing that there's no comments or questions from the board, Capri, you can move on.
All right, so the next bill is Assembly Bill 1273, Interagency Advisory Committee on Apprenticeship. The Director of Consumer Affairs and the State Public Health Officer, Earn and Learn Training by Assemblymember Freddie Rodriguez. It adds Section 314 to the Business and Professions Code, which requires that the DCA or a board shall not approve an accrediting entity that prohibits Earn and Learn programs for training in a profession licensed or certified by that board. A board shall use licensing or certification standards that authorize the use of Earn and Learn training. Additionally, the department and its boards shall not be required to establish a mandate specifying that an accrediting entity must provide Earn and Learn programs for training in a profession licensed or certified by a board. So, the board will not really, cannot approve an accrediting entity that prohibits Earn and Learn programs. However, the board cannot also mandate a program to require such programs, such Earn and Learn programs to be included for training as a condition for approval of that program. So this section shall become operative on January 1st, 2024. And so that is, those are the requirements for this bill.
Any questions or comments from the board or the committee?
All right. So Assembly Bill 1407, Nurses Implicit Bias Courses by Assemblymember Autumn Burke. That is the next one. This amends Section 2786 of the Business and Professions Code to add subdivision E, which states that graduation requirements for an approved School of Nursing or an approved nursing program shall include 1 hour of direct participation in an implicit bias training as defined. This is not a licensing requirement and will not affect reciprocity. The nurse education consultants will evaluate compliance for this provision every 5 years as a part of their established continuing approval process. The bill also amends Section 2811.5 of the Business and Professions Code to add subdivision G, which requires California licensees, including endorsees, during the first 2 years immediately following their initial licensure beginning January 1st, 2023, to complete 1 hour of direct participation in an implicit bias course offered by the continuing education provider approved by the board that meets all the same requirements outlined in Section 2786E above. The licensee shall enter verification of meeting this requirement into their Breeze account when renewing their license, and this will be monitored through the already established continuing education auditing process performed by board staff. Lastly, the bill adds Section 123630.5 to the Health and Safety Code, which will require hospitals to implement an evidence-based implicit bias program as part of its new graduate training program that hires and trains new nursing program graduates. So this last section is not really relevant to the BRN, not to be implemented. It's just the hospitals which are affected by this one. So that's all for this bill.
Comments from the
To,
committee?
to provide clarification, Dolores, it's not that it's not relevant, it's that it's not under our jurisdiction.
Under our jurisdiction, yeah.
Correct. It's not relevant to implementation is what I was meaning to say.
Any questions or comments from the committee?
No questions or comments, and I appreciate the background. You're always so thorough. And it reminds me of all the conversations we've had on these bills, but I know we spent a lot of time on them. So I'm wondering if there's, for the updates, since they are 2-year bills, meaning none of these are physically on the governor's desk or now to be signed in the next 4 days. You know, should we maybe just go over any significant amendments since we took those positions versus like a full run through? Because I know, you know, so we spent a lot of time on them already. So just a suggestion, I'm not sure.
Totally. These are ones which have been chaptered by the, being chaptered and will be implemented by the BRN, and they're somewhat consequential because, the implementation is something which will be, can be elaborate for some of these, not so much for the others, but just to bring this to your attention as to what the implementation might look like and what the requirements of these bills are. But just the chaptered ones, I think we've got a couple more, and that should be all for the direct impact ones.
And then Susan, this is Lori, just to provide some clarification. At any point there are significant amendments to any bill, we will present that at the immediately follow scheduled legislative committee. If it is after a legislative committee, we'll update the board members at a board meeting as well. That way that communication is there. If there happens to be a bill of great importance that we're following closely, and there is an amendment that affects its outcome, and we do not have a legislative committee scheduled or a board meeting scheduled, which could happen. There are, I believe, 3 months of the year that we do not have a meeting scheduled. Then we could always hold a unscheduled or a special board meeting at that point so that we can get that information out to the members and we can get a position change or some sort of update presented at that point. So that is a process that we've utilized in the past, and we'll continue to use that in the future. And we'll just make sure that it is clear that there has been an update, an amendment, and it affects this specific bill, so that you guys are clear on that process too.
Thank you, Lori.
You're welcome.
All right, so the last bill is Senate Bill 607, Professions and Vacations by Senator Dave Min. It adds section 115.5 to the Business and Professions Code. This will waive the excuse me. So this is going to waive the. Sorry, I have to readjust my report here.
Licensure application fee.
The licensure application fee and the initial or original license fee charged by a DCA board for an applicant who meets both of the following expedited licensure requirements, supplies evidence satisfactory to the board that the applicant is married to or in domestic partnership or other legal union with an active duty member of the armed forces who is assigned to a duty station in this state in California under official active duty military orders, and holds a current nurse license in another state, district, or territory. The board may adopt regulations necessary to administer this section, and this section shall become operative on July 1st, 2022. So over the last 3 fiscal years, the board received an average of 197 endorsement applications that were processed as military expedited applications, with an average of 197 endorsement applications and a $350 to $150 application fee for initial licensure. The board will be waiving over $68,000 in fees for this section. So that is approximately the fiscal impact for this bill. A little over $68,000 in fees per year. So
And then just to be clear on that, the 197, which is our average of license request by endorsement into the state for, these are military partners. This does not include the military license for our veterans, et cetera, because that was not addressed in this bill. So we do process much more than 197 expedited license, because we also have the asylee refugee provisions. So there are several other provisions that we do within our board to expedite licensees based on other bills or other statutes and requests that come in. This was just for the military spouse or domestic partner of an active duty member that comes into California on orders.
exactly. So that is those were the 2 criteria I listed for the first section. It has to be is married, a partner of an active duty member of the armed forces. So that is all for these bills. And if you have any question on this particular bill or any other ones,
Does the committee have any other questions or comments regarding the report?
No, just a huge thank you to Gurpreet for all of this. Yeah. The last 3
Absolutely.
sessions have included a lot of bills, a lot of analyzing, and thank you for staying on top of it.
No worries at all. I did want to quickly mention that with of the direct impact bills that have been chaptered so far, I think you have a list for reference. Just a quick rundown: it's Assembly Bill 133, Assembly Bill 361. We discussed these ones, but then there's Assembly Bill 468, Assembly Bill 1015, also discussed. Assembly Bill 1273 discussed here. Assembly Bill 1407 also discussed here. Then Assembly Bill 1477. Senate Bill 306, not discussed here, and then Senate Bill 607. And for the indirect impact bills that have been chaptered so far are Assembly Bill 457, Assembly Bill 928, Assembly Bill 1111, Assembly Bill 1585, Senate Bill 65, and Senate Bill 395. So that is all for now, but there are more coming in the next few weeks, I think.
All right, thank you, Capri.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, I would like to make a motion for the committee to accept this report. Do I have a second?
I second, Jovita.
Thank you, Jovita. Before we go to public comment, we'll take it to a vote. Dolores Trujillo votes yes. Susan?
I thought we go to public comment first, don't we, before the vote?
Sure, we can go to public comment. I'm sorry. You're right. BRN moderator, can you take us to public comment? Thank you.
We will be opening for public comment now. I will be activating the question and answer feature. Please refer to the screen share for members of the public to see how they should type in their request for comment. I've activated the question and answer feature. Members of the public can indicate that they would like to make a comment by typing into the question box, "I would like to make a comment." Please remember, you will have 2 minutes to make your comments. I will not give a reminder as your time approaches. I do not want to interrupt you nor cause you to lose your train of thought. I will mute your microphone and inform you that your time has expired, and we'll move on to the next member of the public. I'll pause for a moment for members of the public to type in, "I would like to make a comment." Committee Chair Trujillo, there are no public requests for comment. Would you like me to close this window?
Yes, please. Thank you. All right, we're ready to take this to a vote. Dolores Trujillo votes yes. Imelda Seja Buckowitz.
Imelda votes yes.
Susan.
Susan votes yes.
Jovita.
Jovita votes yes, thank you.
Thank you. All right, the motion is carried. And this concludes our legislative committee report. And I believe next on the agenda is adjournment. All right, everyone. I believe this is the end of our meeting. Thank you very much for attending the BRN board meeting on the legislative committee meetings. And for October 7th, 2021. Have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.